Thank you everybody for joining. So we're excited to have you for our first Ask Me Anything session. So we're also excited to see so many of you joining. Our goal here was just to really have another avenue for our customers to be able to ask questions and get feedback. So welcome. Um, we'll kind of walk through a few things today. Myself and my coworker Andrea will kind of introduce ourselves, and then we'll start to go into some of the questions that have been submitted. If you all have questions at any point, feel free to put those in the chat or raise your hand, and we'd be happy to walk through those as well. So I'm Ashley Jones. I'm a licensed funeral director. I've been licensed for about 13 years, originally practicing in Oregon. So I now live outside of Savannah, Georgia, and made the switch to Parting Pro a few years ago. We also used Parting Pro at the funeral home that I was at, so we were kind of an early customer of Parting Pro. So I got to bring my own team onto Parting Pro and get things set up for us and see the way that that worked. And then as I was in a life transition, my husband's in the military, we were transferred. I just needed a more flexible job, and that's how I landed here at Parting Pro, which has been great. So I'm going to let Andrea also introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for not being able to be on camera. For some reason, it's not allowing me to do that. So I did my makeup for no reason. I also started off in the funeral industry for many years. I worked briefly with SCI, and then I worked for several independently owned funeral homes throughout San Diego County. I started off on the marketing side in the funeral industry and then eventually went into family services. I did not ever end up getting licensed as a funeral director, but the last funeral home that I worked with is a Parting Pro customer. And so they have used this system directly with families. So I was able to participate in that. And I was a little bit captivated by the software. I was interested in it. And I ended up making some connections and have been working with Parting Pro for going on my fourth year, I believe. So it's been great. And I'm looking forward to talking with you guys. And hopefully Ashley and I will be able to assist you guys and answer any questions.
Thank you. And Andrea, I tried to just send you a request to let you start your video, so maybe give that a try.
Yeah, now it's giving me a failed settings thing. So it could be something on my side. I did a Zoom earlier this morning and it was fine. So I'm not sure.
Oh, darn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said before, feel free if you've got questions to go ahead and put those in the chat. We're going to start with a little bit of a feature review on some of the newer features, just so everybody can see how some of those work. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to start off by showing you or reviewing, I guess, the new funeral director designation that came out a month or two ago, or maybe a little bit longer, and the ability to capture multiple signatures, because this is something that we do get questions on. So let me walk you through that real quick. Okay. So if we go into a case, you will probably have noticed by now that there is a extra field up here that wasn't here before. So we've got case manager, but we've also got funeral director. Now, this is going to serve two purposes for you. It's really going to allow you to, one, just designate which one of your funeral directors is working on this case, especially if you have a larger staff, and then your case manager may be different. And then the other purpose it serves is for your individual funeral directors to be able to have their signature show up on the statement of funeral goods and services. So when we originally implemented the ability to have the statement of funeral goods and services electronically signed, that was really limited to having you choose one funeral director that you wanted to be designated as your default funeral director, and that's the signature that would show up on the statement of funeral goods and services every time. So now, if you've got a funeral director designated and have multiple on staff, whichever funeral director is here, their name will also show up on the statement of funeral goods and services. So the way that you can mark your staff as funeral directors is going into your team settings. And then you'll see here, there's an extra column that says funeral director. And so to make anybody a funeral director, you just come in and edit their settings. And then there is a checkbox here to say this is a licensed funeral director. You can also put in their license number, which will make their license number also autofill on your statement of funeral goods and services. So you can have somebody that's a team member, an administrator, or licensed director, and you can use those as needed there. The one other thing that this is going to allow too is funeral directors can now electronically sign forms, whereas the statement of funeral goods and service is kind of an auto-generated thing. So your family will pay an invoice, go through the store. That signature is going to be auto-populated with the forms. So if you've got, for example, a cremation authorization that's been signed, and you now want your funeral director to sign that, that can happen. So I'm going to just show you how that works. So I've got a quick case here. And in this case, I'm going to send a form that's going to require multiple signatures. So meaning that maybe there's 3 different family members that I need to have sign this statement of funeral goods and services, and I need to have my funeral director sign it too. So I'm just going to go in and send a form here. Now, the key to really making this smooth, if you've got to send a form to multiple people, is that we've added our recipients into our case details. Let me go back one step if you're not familiar with how to do that. Yay, your camera. Good. Thank you. So what we're going to do here is in your case details, you've got a section here for next of kin. So I've pre-added a few family members here. So this would be the circumstance, where you've got multiple authorizers, maybe there's multiple children and you need each one of them to sign a statement of funeral goods and services. Adding in additional next of kin here will let you do that. So really simple to do, add in a next of kin. Just make sure and put in an email address so that they can sign. Once you do that, you can go back to the case. Now, when you go to send your form, it's going to be pretty quick and easy to select those multiple people. So I'm just going to go back to send or print. And then here is where I'm going to be able to select whoever I want to. So I've already got a few people in here. I'm going to say Frank is my primary recipient. And this primary recipient is really designating as the person who's going to fill out the bulk of the form. So our secondary signers are really just going to be that. They're going to be a signer only. They cannot edit any of maybe the vital information or answer any of the other questions on the form. That is really the primary recipient. And then to add recipients, all you need to do is click that add recipient button there and then select your next recipient. So we're going to say we need to send this to 3 people here. I'm just going to select my 3. So I've got Frank, Susan, and Barry. And then when I hit next, I'm going to see my forms. You have this small text right underneath that will tell you how many signatures your form can accommodate. So I'm going to choose this one that has the 3 recipients on it. And now what you're going to see is a drop down here. So we've got 3 people here. I'm going to just select them all because I want this to be sent to all of them. And then if I want to send it to my funeral director too, I'm just going to choose who's my funeral director out of those that are designated. And now what's going to happen, I'll just show you this so you can visualize what it looks like. But the primary fields are going to be filled out by that recipient who's the primary designee. Give this just a second to load. So what we're looking at right now is the fields that Frank is going to be responsible for. So anything in red, that very first primary recipient will need to fill out. And when you scroll through, you're only looking at the fields for that primary recipient. My other fields are grayed out, but if I hover over them, I get to see who those are designated for. So these are Susan's, these are Barry's. If you want to look at what those look like for each recipient, you'll have this next recipient, previous recipient on the buttons on the bottom. So this is going to just visually show you what this next recipient is responsible for. So as you can see, the bulk of the form is grayed out, so they cannot, answer these questions that were designated for that primary recipient. But as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the fields that they're responsible for. And then all you do is need to send your form. And then on your forms tab, when we get back there in just a second, you will also have a status on each person. So you'll see where Barry's at with the form, where Susan's at with the form, where Frank is at with the form. And then once each of those people sign the form, it's going to be sent by email to your funeral director, who can then add their signature to it. So it's a fully digital form now, where before you would have probably had to download it, print it, and have your funeral director sign it with ink. Andrea, did you have anything to add to that?
No, you seem like you handled that thoroughly.
Any questions from the group on that?
And for those
If
who
you
don't
do
want to
have
use their
some,
mic, you can chat your answer or question as well.
yes, definitely feel free and put that in the chat. So we'll keep moving through a couple things, but again, at any point, if you have a question, we're happy to go over that. And then the other thing that I was going to show you is just if you've signed into your dashboard at all today, you've probably noticed that you have this little new flag up here. So we've moved the email template. So you now have a tab in your dashboard where you can edit all of your email templates. And then you have a little bit of added functionality here, which you didn't have before. So if you wanted to edit your email template, you now have what we're calling our field mapping keys. So if you wanted any of this information to auto-populate into your form, you can just copy that, scroll down and paste it into your template wherever you want it. So you can really customize this template quite easily to use. And then the other thing that's been added is you can now designate when you want your reminders to be sent, if at all. So for example, we have one initial reminder. So the default is going to be, it's going to automatically send after 8 hours. Now, if I want to edit that, hitting that little edit button again is going to give you all of the same field mapping. And then you're also going to be able to edit the frequency now. So you can designate at what interval you want this to send, and if you wanted to send it multiple times. So if you just wanted the same reminder to be sent every 2 days, you can do that now. So that's what the email template is. You've also got the same functionality for your digital form template. Get back to the main screen here. So your digital form templates are the same. So meaning that email that the family gets when you send a form to them. So you've now got control to do that too.
Ashley, we did get a couple of questions come in about the forms. The first question is from Kim Vossmeyer. She wants to know, if the primary person has signed the form and we find out we need another signature, how do we send it to just one person? So it looks like they sent the forms out, they got it for a primary person, and then they find out that there is another next of kin that needs a signature. Are they starting from scratch and getting forms to everybody, or are they able to get a signature added on to a form?
Yeah, so great question. Once a form has been finalized, so meaning that all of the recipients have signed it, it can't be restarted or regenerated. So your option in that case would be to either resend the form to the multiple people, or just send that one form one more time to your secondary person. And I would say that's just going to be dependent on your situation. If you really want your primary person to fill out the form and not allow your second person to really answer any questions, and you really just want a signature, then resending the form might be the best option, but that would be a call that you could make depending on that family situation.
Okay, and then Adrian Hunter sent, would all recipients receive an invitation to sign the form simultaneously, or does it go in a specific order? Like, does that primary person sign first, and then after they sign, Are the other people notified, or do they all get notified to go into the form at the same time?
So they all get notified and they can all sign the form at their convenience. So for example, in this example, Frank is our primary. Frank doesn't have to fill out the form before Barry can sign or before Susan can sign. So they do get notifications to go ahead and sign, which they can do at their convenience without having to wait on that first person to
Kim, did we answer your question thoroughly? And Adrian, did that answer your question?
sign. So if there are others, feel free and just write those as well. Okay, perfect. We got a
Awesome.
yes
Those were
there.
great
Thank you
questions.
both.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And then there's one other feature that I wanted to show you, and we happen to get a question about it too, so that worked out great. And that is our white labeling. So we were asked, what is the new white labeling feature? So you may have gotten an email or a few about this new white labeling feature. So I just created a little slide to show you. So the white labeling feature, really what it does is it allows you to customize your store. Which the advantages there are that it looks like your brand. It just looks like a continuation of your brand. So this is just our kind of standard store because it's got the round image, it's got some of the stock photos there, and it may not match your exact branding. With the white labeling, you can match your branding. So I brought up a couple of examples here. So for example, this is a customer website. And then when you click on Arrange Online, this is their store. So the images on this store are the same. So it does really look like just a continuation of that brand. And it doesn't feel like that customer's left your website at all to make these arrangements. It really feels like it's the exact same thing. Um, so there's an example. This is Western. I think this is Adrian. So this is Adrian's site. And this is a great example of that too. So while it's not the exact same image, but it very much feels the same with the blue and the trees. And then I've got one other here. So this, what we do is kind of go to your website, look at what's there. This one really just has vivid imagery. So their store was made with vivid imagery as well. And then you can see the different colors. So this kind of has a gray background and the buttons and things match their branding. So it just feels like a continuation. But again, the background is taken. So this website has a white background, so their store has a white background. But the blue here is also the blue in the buttons, and it just looks really, really nice. So I'd say the customers that really like this are the ones that feel really strongly about their branding. This is where this is really advantageous. Again, just giving that customer the feel that they haven't left your website at all. Andrea,
Does
did you have
anyone have any
anything to add
questions about
there?
white labeling, pricing, anything like that? Okay, it looks like we got a question. Suzanne Wally says that she signed up for white labeling and she wants to know how to get this started. Susan, I will reach out to you and I'll get you scheduled with Megan and she'll do a consultation with you. So I'll go ahead and send you an email. I'll make a note to do that and get you scheduled with Megan and she'll get you started with your white labeling. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. And it is pretty quick turnaround. We can do it really quick. The one thing that you can't see from the screenshot is that the actual URL to the store is actually different too. So in a standard store, let me go back here. So for example, in a standard store, the URL here is just the name of the store, so ashley.partingpro.com. The difference with the white labeling ones is it's arranger dot, for example, westerncremation.com. So Parting Pro is not mentioned in the URL. And so that is also one other thing that just helps that feel really consistent with your brand. Okay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the other questions that we got, but continue to put questions in the chat if you've got them here. So I see Andy's question there. Is it possible to take off the case ID from the dashboard? So I think you'd be referring to this case ID. And unfortunately, it's not possible to take it off. You can just not use it. And then when you go back to your home page here, you can kind of move it out of the way by managing your columns here. So if you don't like to have the case ID shown, you can kind of move it down to the bottom maybe. Um, and then save that. And then that is going to rearrange your column. So at least it's over to the side and it's not there, but not possible at this point to remove it. This is good feedback for us though. So another purpose of the meeting today is to kind of understand what would be helpful for you. So that's good feedback for our team and our product team as we continue to develop here.
And then also, if they are to uncheck it from the manage columns, it'll disappear altogether from the dashboard.
Oh,
let
me
So
make
if they
sure
were
I
to go back
understand
and
here.
hit manage columns, and where it says
Mhm.
case details, just uncheck that case ID, just uncheck it, and it won't show on the dashboard at all.
Okay,
there
there you go. Great.
And
Okay, so I'm gonna head, oops, let me go into another question here. I meant to stay in that case. Let me click back in. The next question we got was in regards to underpayments. Can we enter the contract balance and have payments that reduce the balance with a manual contract? That would be helpful if some of our clients make multiple payments from different sources at different times to complete their payment. Okay. So the way that that can be handled, so the scenario that I'm thinking of is we may have, created an invoice, and now the family's telling us that maybe they need to make payments on this invoice. They can't pay for the full balance at once. So the way that this can be really be handled two ways. If the email has been sent to the customer just like this, so they've received an invoice for $1,015. They can't pay any less than that through the invoice link that they've received. They only can pay the 1,050. So there's a couple things that you could do. Now I'm going to go into the invoice. If we know that the family does need to make payments and they've called us to let us know this, one thing that I would suggest you could do is come back into your invoice and then we are going to edit who we're going to send this to. So if we'll say in this example, Fred needs to make two different payments, well, I'm going to adjust his first balance and let's say he's going to pay 500 for that first. And actually, let me do this. I did this a little bit backwards. It's not the easiest way to do it. So let me show you the easiest way. Easiest way is to edit the amount first. So I've edited that first amount to 500, and then I'm going to add my recipient, and then the remaining balance does the math for me. So if you don't like to do math, that is the easiest way to do it. Can't really make a mistake. And then I'm going to just choose Frank again. I'm going to put in the same email address for Frank. If he's the same payer, if you've got multiple, you can send it to somebody else. But what this is going to do, it's going to have Frank get two invoices. He's going to get the one for 500, and he's going to get the second one for 515, and he can pay them, whatever schedule you've worked out with him. So that's one way to handle that. And then you can resend the invoice to him. He's going to get those two invoices. The other way to handle it is if we're going to apply a payment here. So I'm going to come in and record a payment to my invoice, and maybe he's called us or given us his credit card for a certain amount, and maybe it's less than our invoice. So I'm going to say maybe he's going to pay $200 here. He's going to get a receipt. I'm going to record my payment. And then what's going to happen is you'll see that $200 payment recorded. So as they continue to pay you, you can just record those payments until, of course, the invoice is paid. That will be reflected on the invoice itself as well. So you'll be able to see that $200 payment was made here. Okay. Okay, Andrea, the next question, if you want to start out with that one, is how do we maximize the use of Parting Pro? Do you want to take that one?
Sure. So basically, Parting Pro, as you guys know, is known for its online arranger, but some of the areas that are typically underutilized with Parting Pro is some of the administrative maintenance that you can do as far as a staff person, and then some of the data that can actually be taken for the dashboard. So first off, Ashley, if you could go to the case details and then go to where it says internal. So there's a section in your case details called internal. This is where you can actually keep track of more specific information. So there is a case stage. It has an option of a customer and a shopper. So if your family was to start off as a shopper and then they were to finalize an arrangement, it would track them as a customer, and that's a conversion. Someone who started off as a shopper and became a customer. So maybe 3 months later, you could hit up customer support through the chat and say, hey, can I get a detailed report and know how many of my customers started off as the shopper and became an actual customer. The lead source drop down, Ashley, if you could just click on that, you'll see that this has default areas where families can come from. However, this can be fully customized. So we do have customers who track neighborhoods, suburb areas. Maybe they're very specific about their referral program. So they have actual hospice facilities and hospital names in this drop down. And so as their team is working with families, when they find an appropriate time, they can ask, how did you hear about us? And those answers will be recorded there. And again, in about 3 to 6 months, you guys can hit up customer support and say, hey, can I get a list of where all of my customers' lead sources come from in the past 6 months? And this is a way for our funeral homes and our establishments to really understand, where are your marketing dollars going and where could they go? We've had customers believing that they dominate in a specific area, and because their staff is actually tracking the lead source, they find out that they actually have a huge amount of customers coming from somewhere else that they weren't even marketing to. And then they started marketing to that area, and they were able to increase their volume of cases. So this is something that does get overlooked, and I think it's really, really powerful on that standpoint. And then if you can go back to case, Ashley, and I'll just talk about the checklist and the notes.
Sure.
So the checklist feature, this is also another area that to me is so important. This is the default checklist. This is just the one that comes with your dashboard. However, this can be customized. What you can do is you can send us a list of your steps that you guys take on cases and the priority level of that. Some of our funeral homes have all the priority is high. Some do the high, medium, and low. And so what you can do is, if you have multiple team members working on a case, they can just go into the case now and see exactly where another team member left off. These things can be added, so you can add items to the checklist. You can also put specific notes once you've completed something. So it gives not only visibility between the team, but it allows you to create consistent customer service with your families. The funeral homes that are using the checklist, we do notice that they get a lot of 5-star reviews, because no matter who they talk to, the family is under the perception that everybody knows exactly what's going on with their case, and it just makes them feel valued and important. Just along similar to that, there is a notes tab next to that. And this is where you can be very, very transparent with your team on what is going on. So maybe you uncheck something on the checklist that you ordered flowers. Well, you can put a note here and say the name of the florist that you ordered, who you spoke to over there, when the flowers are going to arrive, all of those different things. And so now if the family calls in and says, hey, did you guys get those tiger lilies on the casket spray for my grandmother? Now a team member can just easily go into notes and see all that and say, yes, the flowers will be delivered at this date and time. And again, it's going to help your families feel like they are really, really, really important, and that you guys are all on one page. And so that is something that's important. Ashley did talk in the very beginning about the templates. Email templates are a wonderful way of just establishing your branding and how you want to communicate with your families. You can edit your templates from the email tab, but as she showed us in the very beginning, there's a new place now that we can go to where we can edit our templates that are for the emails that are going to our families when we're hopefully inviting them to go into the online arranger. And then, of course, there's email templates that go with forms. We do recommend that you guys take the time and really look at those hard templates and make sure that they're communicating what your families can expect to experience with your establishment. Some people have templates that say something completely different than what their process is. And so that can cause confusion. So another way to maximize the use of your dashboard, your online arranger, is to really make sure you're taking care of any particular branding opportunities that the dashboard has for you. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Did you want to add anything to that, Ashley?
I was just going to add to that the invoice templates. So if you don't use invoice templates, they can be extremely helpful. You have a manage templates button next to your invoices. And so if you have, multiple packages in your store, you can create a template for each of those, or even anything not in your store that you're frequently billing for. Just by clicking add here, you can name your template, add in your line item, so that that's really easy to use. And then when you go to do an invoice, so when you want to create a new invoice, you have this option here to start from a template. So now I'm just going to choose that direct cremation template that I created. It's going to populate everything that I wanted. It's going to be the right amount. Maybe you need to add a line item for, a death certificate or something like that. But the base of the invoice is already done for you. And then you can just carry on with invoicing. So that is one other way to just take advantage of those kind of shortcuts as well. Um, okay. So the
Anybody
next
have any
question is,
questions?
oh, so the next question is, why do you recommend only 3 packages in the online store? So you may have heard this from our team at some point, or if you met with Andrea and I when your store was set up, you may have heard that recommendation from us as well. So I'm going to go to the store really quick and just show you. So this is just a test store. But the reason that we recommend 3 is just because it lays out so nicely, and there's not a lot of scrolling back and forth. So we do have customers who, have 4, 5, 6 packages in their store, and we just don't see the conversions as high because they have to do a lot of scrolling back and forth. But with the 3, you really don't have to do any scrolling. You see your options. We can usually get additional packages. If it's a package issue, if you want to make sure that your customer knows that you're going to offer a viewing with your direct cremation, that can be handled by an additional service question so that you don't have to have every single package listed. Because when they choose your lowest package, we're going to be asking within that, within the arrangement, would you like that ID viewing if you're offering that? Would you like a witness placement if you're offering that? So they're still going to see all of your options. So it's really about the presentation for the family and just having a clean presentation. Did you have anything to add to that, Andrea?
Yeah, basically, a lot of times, when we're looking at packages, we're looking at it from a funeral staff perspective. So for us, there is a glaring difference, obviously, between an ID viewing and a visitation. For families, it's not that obvious. And so when you're giving them multiple packages to look at, it really gets confusing to them. And they usually just disengage at that point. And so that's not what you want. You really want your families to be able to go into your online arranger and easily see that you have something for them. And when you're getting into the 4s and the 5s and the 6, you're really starting getting to various minor details. For example, this is a direct cremation, but it's for a veteran, or this is a direct cremation, it's for a senior. They don't want to do all that. They just basically want to know where's the direct cremation package. They click on that. Now, in your direct cremation, as Ashley pointed out, you could have a question that asks them, are you a veteran? And if they say yes, the package can be discounted further. Same thing, you could ask them if they're a senior. And if they say yes, it can be discounted further. Those are things that probably don't need to be broken out into a completely separate package.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions on that part? The next question we have is also in regards to the store. So feel free, if you do have any other store questions, to put those up too. So next question is, our families are always getting the stuff, or excuse me, our families are getting stuck in the store and they're always calling us. Why would that be? So without having like a specific store to look at and kind of give some recommendations on, my first thought is it's because something has got to be confusing in the store that's causing them to call you. Um, so I would say really go through your store. Well, first off, um, I would say you go through your store as a family, pretending you have zero knowledge of the industry. Go through it and see what could be confusing. Are you using some kind of industry terminology that's not clear to somebody? Are the questions more complicated than they need to be? Um, Really, simplicity is the key when it comes to the online store. And I have an example of a death certificate question. So let me just hop through here really quick and show this. But Andrea, while I get to that place, did you have anything that might
Well,
help with this question as well?
so the question was that they have families that are getting stuck in the store and then they're calling them. Okay.
Mhm.
I think it's always positive when families call you because think of that phone call as an opportunity to establish trust and credibility with your customer. Don't view it as, oh, they're calling me. They weren't supposed to be able to call me. So, first off, I would reset your mindset when it comes to the phone call because it's a good thing when your families are calling you. It means that they are acknowledging that they need your help and you are now given an opportunity to provide service to them. I do piggyback off of what Ashley said. A lot of times, online arrangers are not kept simple. There's something that probably needs to be handled with the phone conversation. And staff have decided to try to ask that in the form of a question. So maybe there's 5 different options as an answer. That can be overwhelming to a family. We try to keep responses to the questions in the online arranger no more than 3, and usually we like 2, but if it has to go to 3, it can happen, but usually we want to go 2. If you're going past 3, 4, 5, that might be a question that is not even asked in the online arranger that staff will follow up with the families and get that answer.
Yes, thank you. And that is a very good point. So this is an example of what you're looking at of a question that I would call a little bit too complicated. So how would you like to receive your death certificates? Please mail the requested copies of the death certificates. Please note a death certificate application fee of $50 would be added to your statement. I will pick up the requested copies of the death certificates at the funeral home. Same comment here. I do not need death certificates this time and understand if I choose to order in the future, I have to do so at my local vital statistics office. Now, a customer might have to read this a couple of times, even though, for us in the industry, you might be able to say, well, yeah, they're asking if they want a mail pickup or not. But it's a lot of language to read through in a very brief question. So the probably better way to handle this is to just really get down to what you're asking. What you're asking here is, do they want their death certificates mailed? Because the only other option is that they're going to pick them up in this case. So to do this a little bit more cleanly, what I would do is, would you like your death certificates mailed to you? Straightforward question. There's really just 2 options. Yes, mail the death certificate. They understand that there's going to be included tracking number. No, do not mail my death certificates. And then they're alerted here. You may pick up the death certificates at the office. Now, there was, as you notice on here, this note, please note that additional death certificate application fee is going to be added to your statement. So that tells me there's some kind of required fee, whether it's a state fee, whether the funeral home is charging to obtain the death certificates on behalf of the family. Well, there's a way to also include that as a required fee. So the way that we would do that is when the family gets to the actual death certificate question, how many death certificates do you want? We can say, please note, upon ordering a mandatory death certificate application, a fee of $50 will be added to your statement. Now, if they order one, as long as they put a number here, that $50 fee is going to add to their statement as a required fee. They've been alerted to it. They're expecting to see it on their statement. So that's a cleaner way to ask that same question and get the probably better result with less confusion for a family. So if I look at this, if you have to read this more than once, it's too confusing for the family. You just want to keep it simple. And that's what Andrea and I are really here for. So if you find yourself coming up against things like this, or maybe you don't know the way to reword a question, that's what we'd really love to help with. And so you're always welcome to schedule a consult with us, and we would be happy to kind of go through your store with you, maybe give some suggestions for rephrasing or consolidating things, and just cleaning things up. The other thing that kind of comes to mind is when we talk about kind of funeral language versus consumer language, things like a witness placement, not everybody may understand what that is, or it might give them a different visualization. So kind of an easier way to ask that is, would you like to be present for the start of the cremation? That's just a more clear way to say what a witness cremation actually is, especially for those families who may not be familiar with it, but after reading it may actually want to do that. So we would just want to make it as clear as possible. Any other things like that, Andrea, terminology wise, that you can think of?
No, I think we'll talk about that. If anyone wants to do a consultation, we would love to do those. Ashley and I do those all day, every day. Whether you're a longtime Parting Pro customer or a newer customer, please don't hesitate to schedule a consulting call. If anyone's interested in that, go ahead and put your name in the chat, and I'll be sure to send an email with a link to the Calendly so that you guys can schedule those calls with us.
Perfect. Next question is, how do I submit pricing changes or a new GPL? Great question. This is something that, inevitably, probably a few times a year, we get, every funeral home needs to make a change, whether it's a line item change and you're raising one price or you're redoing your whole GPL, and you need to get that updated. So the easiest way to submit changes is to reach out to our support team, which can be done via your dashboard. So if you're logged into your dashboard, you can just open up your chat box here, um, and go to messages. So you can go, ask a question. Um, it would be as simple as saying, we need to update our GPL. And then you can also attach things here. Attach. So you can choose to attach something here, which is going to be, of course, your new GPL. Or if you're just letting us know of a line item change, you can do that here. But really the key is to be as specific as possible, because if you send us just a whole GPL, we don't necessarily know exactly what's changed. So if you want to tell us exactly what's changed, my direct cremation package changed to this price, this service went up, whatever it is, just kind of giving us bullet points for what has changed, is the easiest and just leads to quicker help and less, I guess, overall confusion. So that would be the way. If you're not in your dashboard, emailing our team at support@partingpro.com. It's the same team that's going to answer that, and they'll be just as quick to respond. Um, so that would be the easiest way to do.
Yes, definitely. Just I get GPL requests a lot. Anyone who works in support gets GPL requests a lot. So if someone sends just a straight GPL and says, hey, we updated our GPL, no notes, no clarification, what we're going to do is just upload that new GPL in our dashboard or your dashboard. That's all we're going to do. And then usually 3 or 4 days later, we'll get an email that goes, wait a minute, I just sold an urn and it's $225. We changed that price to $250. We sent you guys our new GPL. Well, they didn't tell us that they changed that price of the urn. So we really are not going to be able to pay attention to that because we don't have a way of taking an old GPL and putting it with the new GPL and going line by line. It's just impossible. Jenny probably has the exact number, but I imagine they get over 20 GPL request changes a week. So it is something that you want to be as detailed as possible. And definitely feel free to double check our work. We do get kind of blind because we see these things all the time. So please, if after we make a change, and definitely look in there and make sure that you see it reflected. There's sometimes that will, refresh the dashboard and it doesn't save something. We're human. We try to be as accurate as possible, but we do appreciate when you guys catch little errors, and we definitely want to catch that before an arrangement goes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Next question is, what are the best practices for using the online store? So we've probably touched a little bit on the store in regards to the packages and clarity of questions. But I would say, the things that I would keep in mind with your online store is that really the purpose is that you want a family to be able to, or maybe a better way to say that. I would say you've got a successful store if a customer can start arrangements and finish in about 5 minutes. They can get through your whole store without without having to stop and call for clarification on anything. And that they're able to just complete everything that they need. It just makes for a really easy um, experience for the family. You get your information quick and can take care of anything that you need. And then the other thing I would say is just Andrea hit on this a little bit earlier too, but just keeping in mind that the store is, supplementary. It's not a replacement for a funeral director. There's going to be some questions that the online store just can't handle in a great way if it's very specific. One thing that comes to mind is the questions about weight. So, if we're caring for a decedent who is over a certain weight limit, we generally need to collect fees for that. But sometimes there's additional things that are needed. So if you're going to now require that they upgrade from a standard cremation container to an air tray, there's not a really great way to have us go back now and have the customer select an air tray. So there's a way to alert the customer to that. And kind of help them understand within that weight question that an additional, cremation container will be required, and this is the price so that they have that idea. But just understanding that there's still going to be some funeral director elements that have to happen, and those conversations that have to happen with the family. I think just not relying solely on the online arranger to answer all of your questions. So those are the kind of things that come to mind for me. How about you, Andrea?
Yeah, just simplicity. Like I said, the goal is, like Ashley pointed out, try to get them through the online arranger in about 5 minutes. We all live in the social media world for years, so our attention spans are shot. Nobody likes to do a lot of reading, things like that. And so we just need to be realistic that that's just the world we live in now. And so we want to try to just emphasize simplicity and brevity. And you're really just looking to get a really good foundational idea of what this family needs. But please feel free, when you're following up with your families, feel free to offer an ID viewing if that's something that you guys are offering. Again, like Ashley said, feel free to explain to them in better detail what a witness cremation is. I can't tell you how many times funeral staff have told us that a family called upset saying, why would you want me to see my loved one burn alive? Because that's what they thought a witness cremation was. So definitely just if you have friends or family that you can send through your online arranger, someone who doesn't work in the industry, and get their feedback. Listen to it. If they're telling you it was confusing, then definitely work with Ashley and I, and we'll see what we can do to help resolve that. Um, Online arrangers are a work in progress. Don't feel like because you've had one like a certain way forever, you can't change it. We're here to make changes. We have customers that sometimes change their, online arranger every quarter, and that's fine. So definitely try to keep it as simple and easy, and definitely let your staff know that they need to be willing and ready to assist families who are online. That's just part of the nature of what we do.
Yeah, really good points. Thank you. Um, so next question here happens to be our last question as well. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free and put those in the chat and we'll try and get to as many as we can before our time is up here. But question is, why do my forms look blurry? So probably just because they're not the greatest copy is the simple answer. We really can only utilize what you give us for your form. So some forms are blurry, and we try and get the best copies of form. But if you're noticing that your form is blurry or it's like crooked, it's generally because we've been sent a scanned copy of a form. So we're using a form that's been scanned multiple times. And so we can really only work with what we're given. So I would suggest that if you're in this situation, if you can send us original copies of your forms in a PDF or a Word version, it'll be much more successful. And I like forms as I feel pretty strongly about forms because your families are using them. They should be They should be simple to use. They should be easy to read just because you're going to have a better result. You're not going to get questions about as many questions about the forms if they can be simple and easy. And I realized that you know, changing from meeting from a family in line or not, excuse me, not in line, in person. When you're meeting with a family in person, the forms tend to work really well, or at least if you've been using that form, it's kind of been tailored to meeting with family in person. When you're transitioning to more electronic signatures, sometimes we just need to edit the forms to make them work better for an electronic signature. And this is another place I'd really rely on having somebody that you trust go through your store, send them their forms, get their feedback. Are these confusing? Are they hard to read? Andrea and I are also happy to do that with you and kind of give you feedback on forms, maybe suggestions for simplifying. Um, so yeah, those are the things that I would say in regards to the forms. Andrea, did you have anything to add to that?
I'm going to answer Kim's question. Kim just submitted, if you have a multi-page form, is it possible to send just one page versus the entire document? Yes, we can do that. We do have customers who have a document that's set in its whole length, which could be a total of 4 pages. But in addition to that, they have a scan that and tag that document as cremation authorization page 1, cremation authorization page 2, cremation authorization page 3. So if you have any document that you also want to have available page by page, definitely let us know that and we can do that for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and you could just request that from our support team or by
Yeah, the
emailing
customer
one of us,
support
and
chat.
then
So anything with
yeah.
GPL changes, anything with forms, we do recommend that you either send through the customer support chat or you go ahead and send an email to support@partingpro.com because it's just really good for us to have a paper trail when we're getting those type of requests. I'm available on the phone, so is the customer support team, but we don't usually like to take form edits over random phone calls. If you're not sure what to do with your forms, again, that would be an opportunity to schedule a consultation call with Ashley or myself, and we would be willing to do a deeper dive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just to kind of wrap up, because I know we're getting to time, just want to make sure we've hit on our support channels a bit today, but utilize them as much as possible. Our team is really great at answering questions. We have implemented a little bit of AI as the world is trending that way, who does a pretty good job at answering questions, but you can also just ask for our team and they'll be able to answer your questions. I'll make sure today that, we'll email out a recording of the video, and then there will be a link for Andrea and I as well to schedule consulting with us if that's something that you're interested in. But yeah, our job is to just help you all be as successful as possible. So don't hesitate to utilize us, ask us questions, schedule meetings as needed. Um, and just, yeah, thank you for attending today. We're excited that this has been our first one. We are going to make this a monthly thing. So we'll have a schedule of this just monthly that you can attend. You can also submit questions at any point, for us to answer on the next AMA. This is our first one. So also if you have any feedback on this session, we'd love to hear that too. Things that may work better or be improved from your point of view. Andrea, did you have anything else to add?
No, this has been very fun and nice to hear what you guys' questions are. A lot of times Ashley and I are in the dashboards all the time, so it's just second nature to us. So getting your questions lets us know areas that we might want to give a little bit more education on. So this has been really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And again, I'll have a follow-up email for you right after this.
Yeah, and Susan, I'll send you an email as well regarding getting you in touch with Megan for the white labeling. All right,
Thanks,
take care.
everybody.